And now for our seventh round of score evaluations. Shane, thank you for your entry. Sorry that it took a while to get to you. I actually could not find your entry. Facebook doesn't really have a very good search option for hashtags. You know, some things will show up in my search, some things won't, and I'll have to go hunting for them. So thank you for the reminder on the last post that I did yesterday. Okay, so starting with this score, I think overall I'm going to give you the comment that there just needed to be more harmonic support. Now here you've got some notes in viola, but they don't have the same kind of staying power as like a note played arco, right? Or a note that's played by a wind instrument, right? So the pizzicato here and in the contrabass just didn't provide enough support in the end to just really support this line. And there are some other places as well. I'm sort of jumping ahead here just to comment before I forget. And yeah, and one of those spots was right here. Okay, now I'll comment a little bit more as I get to it. But yeah, there were just some spots where it just needed, it needed some chords or it needed something just to bulk it up, whereas the melody was always given like the most respect. Now, it's good that you're thinking about that, but anyhow, let's go back to the beginning. And let's talk about this. Now, it's great to give the bassoon this opening melody, but the phrasing here is very pianistic. It's basically just like a phrase, right? It's not really breathing instructions. You have to think, do you want your player to go da? You know what I mean? And that just doesn't really give very much inflection or impulse or anything like that. Or do you want them to go da 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 da? Or just no slur at all. Dun da dun da dun da dun da dun. All right, so please think about those things because the players are going to be thinking about them, right? They have to know which notes to connect with slurs and which not. So you really need to think about that. This is kind of interesting. Now, did you intend to start and then go into tremolo, or were you just not able to put tremolo on the first note? See, that's like immediately hands go up, right? Now, if you didn't have the tie there, then hands would not go up in rehearsal. But see, since every other tremolo is tied, and this one isn't, immediately the player will think that you made a mistake, right? Just like I did. Now here, you have the oboe take over on a single note, and then you have the bassoon going down and the oboe going up. Now, I just want to tell people that if you intend for a smooth, seamless transition from one wind instrument to another, you need to make the transition happen on a single note, right? And when the lines separate out like this, you just sort of feel like, oh, hey, the oboe came in. You don't feel like, wow, the bassoon turned into an oboe. If you want the bassoon to turn into an oboe, pick a single note. And usually, like, the downbeat is really the best place, the end of a phrase, right? Da 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 ba da bum for the oboe, right? It would be way better to put it right here. Of course, D is kind of a hard oboe to transition for the. Sorry, D is kind of a hard note for the oboes to transition, anyways, because it's kind of a, it's D flat even. Getting close to the bottom of the register. So those notes are kind of harder to control and harder to sort of make match and be subtle and everything else. They tend to honk. All right, moving on. Yeah, here the oboe has no slurs on it or anything, right? So it seems kind of selective in terms of what you might have copied and pasted from other parts. You never mark a bass clef on an oboe part, ever, okay? So please don't do that. And see, here's a little bit more harmonic support. I kind of like this, that you have like some strings and some winds, right? And then here you go to all winds with just a tiny little touch of strings in there, the second violins. So that's really cool. See, I like this a lot. Once again, you need more individual slurs to tell the players how to breathe. And, you tend to mark solo instead of actually marking, like, what's the dynamic here? Mark your entrances. Like there's no, a lot of these parts just come in and there's like nothing telling them what to play. I mean, every once in a while, at a kind of an obvious part, you'll say what the dynamic should be, but I'm not seeing it. All right. All right, so moving on. Here you are having the double basses, which are pizzicato, right? Sorry, just the double basses below, cellos above, doubling the bassoons. Okay, so I just kind of, darn it, I just kind of want to know, sort of like here, I think you forgot to mark a pizzicato, right? Like, see, this is all, obviously, in the cello part, this is all arco, but here, you don't say pizzicato, but here you say arco, which I think is intended for this note here, right? So, anyways, it's a bit of a jumble in terms of your markings. Now, if you are having pizzicato in your lower strings, and you are having bassoon sort of match what they do, you really need to mark the bassoon staccato, okay? So that the players know that they are matching up with the pizzicato, right? It just is a really good guide to them. All right, moving on, you start doing your little umpapas. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, now this is interesting. Here you've got a situation where you've got B flat in the bassoon, and then below that a D flat, which I'm not really sure. I'm wondering if you thought that this was a B flat. Yeah, so you're basically creating like a faux bourdon, like a false bass of a, kind of an inverted chord in essence. So, yeah, so think about that. This would be easier to do on the basses if you really intended to match this from an octave below. Way easier because you can't get the low B flat on the cellos. All right, and this seems a little, this ting, ting, ting on the triangle seems a little, like it kind of goes on for a little too much. Maybe ting on the downbeat. Ting, bum, ba, ting, ding, da, ting, da, da, ting, da, rather than ting, 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 right? It just kind of makes it a little too icy or sort of too much icing on the cake. Now, this is interesting. You start off an octave lower than written on the piano, and then you run out of space, and then you jump up to D, okay? And then you have a crescendo going into the lower part of the flute. This is all very cool, except for the place to jump is at the beginning of the next idea, right? Bum bum ba da 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 bum bum ba da da da. It just feels like this is unnatural. However, dun da 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 dun 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 da 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 bum ba da 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 da. Do you see what I mean? So it's just better to have this up an octave, where it's beginning a new emphatic idea, rather than to sort of go up a seventh here. Kind of right in the middle of the next idea. It's good that you have more. It's good that you have more shorter slurs here, but I really, really recommend that you do more score reading and really look how composers are adding slurs to wind parts to show where the breathing and the tonguing is, okay? Because, yeah, I think that you could benefit a lot from that. Here, it sort of is just over a couple of bars, and you have an accent in the middle of a slur, right? So you're going to get this da, da. Whereas with, you could also slur like this. Da, 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 da. You know what I'm saying? Getting more of an emphatic slur by putting the tonguing right on the note. All right, moving on. Okay, so once again, we're getting massive melodic doubling, right? This is kind of interesting. You've got the flutes in octaves with the lower note supported by the clarinet, and you have the same jump up, right? Where the clarinet could just keep going down here and just keep supporting this lower octave, right? And then you also have the violins doubling and then jumping up. There's nothing wrong with the violin playing an octave higher here and doubling what the flute is doing, right? See, the way that you've got it scored is, your violins are not jumping up, right? So the flutes are going up there. So you have this really fluty texture on top, and suddenly, right here, it becomes a stringy texture with flutes. Right, so that is really going to stand out like a sore thumb. Right, this needs to jump up. Maybe you forgot to do it or something like that. But yeah, maybe proof your scores a bit more if some of these are things where you just said, oh, geez, I forgot to do that. So yeah, maybe proof a little bit more. Yeah, nice idea for the snares, by the way. I thought that was pretty cool. Okay, and this is really strange. You've got the second flute above the first flute. And you know, there is absolutely zero problem with the with A flat, high A flat, and high B flat on flute at fortissimo for your first flute player. They can do that any day of the week. And the same thing is true for your first violins. To play all of this an octave higher is no big deal whatsoever. Okay? It is the easiest thing in the world for them. All right? They are used to those high notes. So, yeah. And so what happens here was that suddenly your counter melody part, the counter melody, the syncopated rhythm going through it, suddenly became more important than the melody because the melody wasn't strongly scored, right? So yeah, you could have had this right at the pitch that it was scored in the piano part. Then you could have had, and the same thing for the violins, and then you could have had the second violins and the oboes doing, or first oboe at least, doing the same thing. Then you would have had more strength in that melody as opposed to just putting all the weight onto this sort of counter melody thing. Okay, so yeah, I mean, it's you got some interesting ideas here. I like the cymbal. You know, I like this cool down. That's kind of fun. Okay, and see here you're getting a little bit more rational with your slurring of your winds. Okay, yeah, and there was not enough contrast here, right? And you came off of it by putting in. There wasn't that little breather bar, you know. So that there's the melody comes to an end, and then there's a part where the music just sort of picks itself up and then goes into a breath. But instead, it sort of got this little da 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 da. Right. Okay. And then here, these are two contrasting parts that are in the original piano score that are like an octave apart, and they're also dynamically kind of there's a sort of a dynamic and textural kind of slight contrast because of the different positions. So yeah, so I think that some of this was just the copying was just a little strange. Yeah, you know, maybe next challenge I will supply some, not all, but some of the files, some XML, something like that. So it'll be a little easier on composers who are still getting used to transcription and so on and so forth. But yeah, but look, really good effort. This, you know, if you are just really starting to find your feet here with orchestration, this was really, you know, a great effort, and you know, just looking forward to you participating in more of these. Thanks so much. Our next score up is from Linda, and it's got some pretty promising ideas. Let me point out a few basic things before we get started. One is that the bar lines need to follow the groups, right? Just like you have got a single bar line across the grand staff here, you need a single bar line to cross all the strings and both of your brass instruments, and then all of the winds, right? That just needs to be bar lines so that people just look at it as kind of like a bundle of staves, and a bundle, you know, and a couple of staves strung together here, and a bundle of staves there. Okay, so the first you express the melody here, and I've been harping on this with everybody's entry. Look, you really do need to show what notes are connected to other notes, because there's almost no slurring in this scoring, right? You have to think, is the player going to be going da 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 da, just like you've got it scored here, or are they going to be slurring it in pairs of notes, da 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 da, or even da 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 da, right? So look, you really do need to let the violinists know how they're going to be bowing things. I don't mean adding bowing marks. They almost never need that, but they do really need some guidance in how to phrase things using their bow. All right? This is kind of cool. If you are going to be writing out these groups like this, with this rest, do you need a rest here if you really want that sense of separation between each one? Right, like an eighth rest here. And also, look, you don't need to mark these as separate voices. You can just mark them as intervals, right, with one stem. And that's just a lot easier to read and a lot less messy. Okay, moving on. Your violins and clarinet go up towards the completion of the phrase. But who completes it and takes over the melody is the horns, right? Which are way, way down, right? So you're thinking ba da 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 ba da 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 da, right? There is a lot of that happening in this piece, where there are just sudden jumps as other parts take over on the melody, and it's kind of cool to do that once or twice, but doing it a lot of the time can get to be a bit showy, or just a bit disjunct. Here, this is going to be actually a fairly strong sound, right? So, yeah. You do not need to say, hey, first horn, you take this, and second horn, you take that, because really, it should just be the first horn. The first horn will have their lip completely ready, and they're going to want to play more than one, or just two bars, right? Just give the first horn the whole thing. Nice that you got alto sax. I'm glad that you put it under the bass clarinets. That's the easiest thing for me as a score reader, to look at it and just know what the chord is going to be, what the sound is going to be. I mean, I can look at that and I can see how this is an A flat, sounding A flat, and how this is sounding E flat, and so on. I just like look down the score and I just know what it is. Whereas if you put the alto saxophones like below the trumpets or something like that, it just would be harder for me to just look at it and say, oh yeah, that's it. Here, you're really kind of asking the impossible. This low B flat is a difficult note to play, and it's really difficult to play anything softer than about mezzo forte, right? Now, it's not impossible in that, like, a good player could get down to that B flat and they could try to sort of rein it in. But look, you've already got the trumpet going down to its C, which is an easy note for the B flat trumpet, right? So it would be better just to trade off on one of these notes, right? As opposed to having them like double. See, the sound of this will be like a nice, beautiful, clear trumpet going down to a piano. And, meanwhile, just the sound of the struggling oboist. Another problem that you've got here is that you're just dealing with a lot of centrally positioned dynamics. There's just lots of mezzo piano, lots of mezzo forte. Okay, I want you to think mezzo is not a safe place. Mezzo is a blending tone, right? Mezzo piano is what instruments play when they want to blend together with each other, not play solos, right? Just really try to avoid. And I want you to think of piano and forte as being these big worlds that, just like there's a lot of space in that world that you can control with hairpins and inflections and articulations and all these kinds of things. You can get a beautiful solo out of something that is marked piano, and try to avoid mezzo forte and mezzo piano. Try to avoid using them unless you're sort of on your way to something else. Right? That's a good place to throw them in. But really don't allow your scoring to have mezzo piano or mezzo forte to be your central place, right? Because it just traps you in a place where the instruments are not sounding their best, not sounding their, they don't have that wonderful feeling of restraint that piano has in the strings, or that wonderful feeling of strength that that brass have when they're in forte, right? It is just too much compromising. Now here you take over on flutes, and this is beautiful because this will sort of be like a ray of sunlight breaking, because everything has been so lowly placed in terms of the melody. So that's really nice. And once again, you really do need to tell your players, like, how are they going to be connecting the notes, right? Do you really want the flute to go ta 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 ta, Or do you want them to go ta, 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 ta? Or you want them to go ta, ta, ta? You know, just really think about what you are asking them to do in terms of their breath. Now, this is really cool. The alto saxophone kind of getting up into this position with the clarinets. That is a nice idea. I really do like that a lot. That's a really fun, really fun approach. Okay. Now, this I liked. The bassoon taking up the second episode, whereas generally it would be a flute thing, you know, marked 2 octaves higher than it's scored here. Then, yeah, but you know, mezzo forte. It could have been piano. There's a whole world. Yeah, I mean, sorry, I'm just repeating myself, but yeah, this could have been piano. Everybody could be piano, and you could get a beautiful sound out of this. It doesn't have to be medium strong. You know, the psychological effect on the player will be fine. Okay, and this should certainly be slurred, shouldn't it? You know, da rather than ta 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 ta. Right, and same thing here. One bow, ba. So yeah, so think about all these things. This is beautifully placed for the oboe. Okay, and yeah, so things are starting to build, and there's a little bit of harmony here in the horn and in the bassoon. That's kind of cool. Yeah, but I mean, you could have added a little bit more with the flutes. Just a thought. And then, you know, here's where you're saving the alto saxophone for, right? This is nice. Okay, and then B-flat trumpet taking over. That all works. Now here we get to a section where your counter melody is way stronger than your melody, right? This is just the counter melody is just going to go bum 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 bum, right? As opposed to dun 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 bum. You know, I mean, it's just, yeah. You could have, the problem here is that you've only got one violin group, right? Rather than first and second violins, right? So here you could have gone first violin, A flat, an octave higher. Second violin as written, right? Viola is fine. Then you could have doubled those with flutes, and you could have given this to the clarinets or to the oboe. There's just a bunch of different things you could have done and strengthened this with a little bit more harmony in the middle. You know, and also, see, like the bassoon could be doubling the cellos down below, right? And second horn may be thrown in. So there's just more that you could have made this a lot more massive. And look, it never really gets that big. I mean, you're only going up to mezzo forte. Once again, mezzo forte is not a safe place, right? It is like it's like limbo, right? It's neither heaven nor hell. It's just a foggy area. And here, like, here's the cool down, which is nicely scored, right? Like, it's lovely to have this horn melody come in here, but it's not going anywhere dynamically, right? Because here you've got forte in the bassoons, and the clarinets come over, and they're marked mezzo forte, and so there just really is no place to chill. The music is just kind of staying in that center place, rather than going down to soft. Soft is beautiful. Soft is great. Okay, and then, you know, here we're kind of back to mezzo forte, and there is no real dynamic contrast between da 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 da. You know, anyway, I won't harp on it for too much, but this is cool. I like the violas taken over by the cellos, and you have to decide: is this going to be staccato, da 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 boom, or da boom? And this is a cool idea on oboe. This will work, right? Because you stay at E or above. And yeah, this all kind of works pretty well. That is a bit of a high note. That high written E flat is a bit of a high note to be really expecting pianissimo. I mean, you can get something that's written pianissimo, but it is a sounding D flat, right? And oboes can play sounding D flats at pianissimo probably a lot easier than clarinets can write, play a written E flat pianissimo. I mean, it's not a really hard note, but it's just the essential character, right? And so the winds are getting all the high notes, and the instruments that can play those notes really softly are actually marked under, right? So this is going to be a very windy note, right? You got pianissimo on your winds, and you got triple P on your violins, right? Is the violins, if the strings, if anything, should always be marked louder or as loud as the winds, right? They shouldn't be the ones who are taking the hit, being asked to turn down. Because usually, there's this old Rimsky-Korsakov adage, which is that the winds are twice as strong as the strings, and the brass are twice as strong as the winds. Right? It's not really true. But it's just a general conception. A rule of thumb that isn't, that has some merit to it, but doesn't need to be like the law of the land. Anyway, so yeah, I really enjoyed looking at this. I've been very picky on these first two scores and spending a lot of extra time. But, don't take it, nobody should take that personal. It is just really, giving help where help is needed, and really talking over things that are cool. And, and actually enjoying myself looking over some of these things and some of the really neat ideas that, I wouldn't have occurred to me. So, yeah, please do continue to submit things, and that's that high G flat at piano. That once again, not the most characteristic soft high note for a clarinet. Doable, but a bit of work, and will kind of tend to interfere with the flute there. All right, that's all I've got to say about this. Thanks so much for sharing it with me, Linda, and I hope that you join in some of these challenges again. Our third score for this batch is Fergus's excellent score. And sorry, there's going to be a little bit of noise outside because I've got some workers over. But that shouldn't disturb us too much. So this is really an excellent arrangement. And there are a few things that need a little bit of work that I would comment on. But otherwise, it just really, just has a lot of finesse, a lot of polish on certain aspects of it, and just really enjoyed watching it and, reading it and listening to the mock-up, which was very nicely done. It was just, kind of an example of how to do a mock-up in a really cool way that, that could be possibly used professionally, just really had some excellent stuff going on in it. So, yeah. So, once again, these are kind of cool, these phrasings. But just wondering if you had thought out how they would actually play. Ta, 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 ta. I mean, it doesn't really have a kind of cohesiveness. Do you know what I mean? A certain place where the breathing and the there isn't. I mean, I'm not saying that you have to be regular. I wouldn't say like, oh, there is no regularity to it, but there isn't like a sense of, there isn't a sense of rhythm to the way that people are breathing in this. So I just would say watch out for that. Now, the only critique I would have here is that when you go up to this English horn part here, you lose a little bit of this voice here, right? I know you're throwing in the cellos there, and that helps to sort of supply some of that. But yeah, it's a little irregular, in my way of thinking, but it's still beautifully done. All right, just because I don't agree with some ideas or I have some alternate things doesn't mean that your scoring isn't going to be fine. Okay, now here we're continuing on, and the oboes are taking over as a doubling to the first violins, and really nicely done with the horns in support. It's really good horn scoring, and I thought that was just excellent. And Here, when we get into this kind of mass with the harp, I'm not so sure that the harp is really doing much else but just sort of giving a tiny bit of tone weight to the cellos, and almost negligible, really, I would say. I don't know if you really need to do this to go divisi and then just have two different groups of the cellos doing different things. It just seems a bit fussy to me. It's better to go... Oh, I see what you said. 2T here. Okay, so... Sorry, I didn't catch that. Maybe have a line going up to there, or just like maybe block that out, or I don't know. Maybe make the page turn or make the group end here so that it can go back to being 2T staves, whatever. Okay. You could see how easy it was for me to miss that, right? All right, continuing on. So here the flutes come in and that is some pretty cool doubling. It's all pretty well done. Yeah, and adding a bit more harmony than Ravel had in his original score. And this was very cool, the little touches of harp and Glock. I really enjoyed that as well. Now here we're getting into some real Hollywood scoring. This this stuff in here, the oboes, ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum. Yeah, I do not think that Ravel would have scored like this, but I think he would have been delighted to hear that kind of approach applied to one of his pieces. I think he would have found it quite fun. Quasi-glissando? Look, man, just, if you're going... See, the tempo that you scored in your mock-up was way under. It should really be... Dun, dun, da, 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 dum, bum, 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 ba, da, dum, dum. So if you're really thinking of like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and you need to get from G up to E flat, that's not a quasi-glissando. That's kind of a slower glissando. I would say you get the same effect by dropping down to this G here and just turning it into a true glissando, right? And it's just easier for everybody concerned, including the harpist. And and this is fun. Yeah, just really, really cool. Trumpet and celesta. What a really fun texture that is, and very, very cinematic. This was nice, and the snare drum and the tambourine, that was all very cool. I think that this, honestly, just all respectfully, forte piano on the celesta is going to be, just accent it and forget about the P, right? That's the only way it's going to come through, and come through clearly here. You don't really need the P. This is nice. You can do forte piano here, but the celesta will just die, after the P when stuck in this texture, I feel. Unless it's being unless there's a microphone on it. Okay. And then here, this is lovely. The harp scoring here is good. I approve. That's good. It's a little, I would say, don't bother doing a decrescendo to piano. You know what I'm saying? Put the decrescendo here and put the P here. Right? Because otherwise you're just telling the harpist to disappear. So yeah, nice oboe solo, cool English horn here, nice arpeggios. I think it's a little cluttery right in here compared to where Ravel's head was really coming from, but still very nice. And then going up here to this big, this much bigger texture, and it was leading somewhere, and then boom, you stopped. But that's fine. I actually kind of prefer that in some cases. Even with a really accomplished score like this one, where, obviously the orchestrator's got some chops and they know what they're doing. All the same, just having a snippet of it and sharing things. Oh, this is really cool. This bottom. that was really something. Very fun. And this is really cool, playing divisi in 3 on these tremolo chords. Yeah, it just has some lovely touches in it. So I would say if you want to hear the cinematic approach to the Ravel, just really check this out, And yeah, I love the triple you could almost say triple horn, right? Because English horn plus the French horns. Of course, now that's going to swallow up the English horn to an extent, but it will still color it enough to be justified, sort of. I won't ding you for that. But if you really wanted a blend in which the English horn had any kind of chance here, I would mark the horns mezzo forte. Okay. So anyway, I loved it. Nice work, Fergus. And yeah, just please do. If you get time, would love to see more of your scores in these challenges in the future. Our next to last piece in this batch is Peter's, and he has very conveniently set things up as a landscape format, and the size of the image is not too high, so thinking ahead, that's really awesome. Now, I had to listen to your mock-up, Peter, just to really kind of get a sense of what you intended with this, because sometimes it's just really not obvious on the surface, and sometimes there's a tendency to score a bit to the sounds just to kind of make a clear image, and I've criticized that before, but I'm not going to criticize it too much for this challenge. Now, the image I was left with the beginning of this was a very sprightly type of arrangement, just really almost as if a member of Les Six, like Auric or Mio, had a hand at scoring this. It just really, there's a sense of minimalism here, where the progression of the melody is not as important as creating colors. Do you know what I mean? And it just was very cleverly done, I felt, right at the beginning. So the absence of slur marks here is a plus, but you can see right there, just the way that it's scored and the way that Peter has put together his mock-up, that it just really makes a whole lot of sense, the way that is. And this is really, really nice. See, now here is a nice balance, and I'm going to allow for this mezzo forte use because there is kind of a sense of kind of a suspension of a commitment to to anything firm, right? You kind of want a sort of a light texture. Now, that said, I think that you could have totally scored this in P. Do you know what I mean? P, and just like instead of allegro, which you got the tempo kind of up, a little faster than normal, vivo, So vivo and P, and then you've got more room for inflections if you need them, right? And there's a bit of Poulenc in here as well, just kind of like his perpetual motions pieces, in which you try to just get the there's a touch of Poulenc's perpetual motions kind of approach here, where just themes just kind of go in and out and sort of repeat in a way that just really kind of suspended and continue to go on. All right. So I'm not going to be too tough on the dynamics here, but it really just could have been marked P and had inflections and shades of P. Okay. All right. So so this is all fun. It feels like it doesn't go anywhere, but it does go places. And then when a cadence actually happens, this is nicely done. Now here, this is really just a glissando, eh? So, I mean, I guess this could be scored possibly as a tuned glissando. Do you know what I mean? So, F natural, right? A natural, C, yeah, maybe. I'm trying to think how that would work. So you would have E sharp and then F, and then I'm trying to think of a way that you could do this just by tuning it a certain way, and then just turning this into, because it's just going so fast. I mean, I'm just thinking about at the speed that you've marked at 140 per click, it just really seems like this is better off written as something where the harpist can just sweep their hand along at that speed rather than really playing arpeggios. All right, so maybe I would say work on that, fix that up a little bit if you wanted to take this forward. Okay. Now, why are the winds marked at a higher dynamic than the string line? All right. Mezzo piano and piano. Shouldn't it be the other way around, or shouldn't they all be just piano? Right? Because this is a softer section. What if the winds were marked like piano or pianissimo, and the string line was piano, and then you got to mezzo piano here, right? So yeah, so don't give things away too soon, and try to stay out of the blahs. Really, the mezzo piano, mezzo forte area. It is not a safe place. There's no safety there. And here, things sort of fall apart a little bit. There's this one part. Yeah. So the music sort of comes to a stop here, right? And kind of nothing supports. And then there's this other part too. And that is... yeah, where things just don't seem to connect together. I'm trying to find it. Yeah. I see what's going on. Yeah, it was right here. So it's kind of the energy kind of drains out of everything, and there's just this big sweep up to here. So if this sweep were better supported, and there was more harmony going on and more impulse in terms of the rhythm, then there would really be no problem. But I don't, I'm not seeing that. So that's what gets me there. Okay, so yeah. So continuing on from there, this was kind of cool. This support here by the brass, very nice. This was really kind of cool too, just the way this all came together. Cool scoring. But we're really kind of going more and more to just nothing but strings, and then here we just like have nothing going on in the rest of the orchestra. Bum ba da 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 bum. I mean, where's the rest of the orchestra? I want to know. Okay, because yeah, it's such a great start. This is all coming together, and this was so fun and sort of joyous. And yeah, I just kind of want to know what happened here. So maybe ran out of time or something like that, or just felt that there should just be strings. And if that is so, then I respect that. But yeah, just kind of, it seems a little anticlimactic, if you know what I mean. All right, and then yeah, and then coming back once again. This is a cool down, right? Why are we mezzo forte? Right? We're cooling down to P. Why can't this just be P? Da 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 ba bum ba bum. P with a little hairpin in the middle, right? And this is just such a nice little treatment of it with the clarinet down here. Yeah, I mean, just really, really nice. It would be fine in P. And same thing here. Ba 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 ba. It's very cool. And, it would have been neat to bring back some of that energy of the beginning. That lovely sort of minimalistic or salon French kind of approach of the 20s that was just so strong in here. Bring back some of these trills and this neat little stuff going on in the second flute and, the triplets. And, oh, man, it would have been nice to just throw in touches of that here as you go towards the end. Okay, and... yeah, and I felt a little bit of a missing opportunity for bum 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 da da bum 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 bum. Yeah, there aren't two contrasting voices or two contrasting little mini episodes there. This is neat. Da 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 bum 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 ba da da da. Yeah, this is all nicely done. Okay. Now, problem here though. D flat, ottava. Right? That is not going to sound pianissimo. D flat, way up high there, is not going to be soft. It is going to shriek. Right? So these notes here are better off scored. I mean, and also, yeah, so this high flute F is, that could be soft, but yeah, but not, this D flat, it's possible, but it's just really shrieky. It would be better, here's a couple of ideas. Right here, you got all this time. Have your first flutist change over to piccolo, right? Everybody's got a piccolo. Just do this as a piccolo line, right? This D flat won't be possible on the, it doesn't exist on the piccolo, but But you don't need it. You could have another instrument play it, like maybe just like the clarinet could get this line or could get this note, and then the second flute could get this, or the second flute could be the piccolo player, and this part could go to the first flutist and just staying on flute. So that would be one way. Or you could give some of these notes to the strings playing artificial harmonics. Okay. So anyways, that was my thought about this. I just felt that there were some missed chances here, Peter, and just fine orchestration and really fun approaches. But, once again, stay out of the blahs, the mezzo forte. See, here, mezzo forte is not so bad. But, I mean, this should be, all honesty, this should be forte, that should be fortissimo, right? And mezzo forte should be over here, right? So anyway, that's just my thoughts on it, and just really ease off on the mezzo forte and the mezzo piano, everybody. Really commit to being soft or loud, and look at Ravel's dynamics, for the piano part, and he's got a couple of places there where he gets into the mezzo territory, but it's not it's not his main focus. It's not his central place for his dynamics. His central location from which he goes is piano, right? And that is a nice, safe place. Great score, Peter. Looking forward to more from you someday. Our last entry in this batch is from Zach, and this is just really a nice piece of scoring. It's what I would call really friendly scoring, And, all pretty nicely laid out. 2 flutes, oboe and English horn, clarinet and bass clarinet, 2 bassoons. So this could be done with a small orchestra, doubled everything, doubled winds and 2 horns, 2 trumpets, timpani. So, the most that I could offer is just some things that I've told other people. Now, see, this is good right here. This, you got this portato thing going on, sort of giving inflections kind of to the, That's really nice. And then here you have the second violins doubled by the flutes. And here, notice that everything is in D major, which is a very easy key for the whole orchestra. This lowest note is a C sharp here by the flutes. Now, I would still edit the heck out of this in terms of just like, what are you really trying to say with your phrasing, with the, are you telling the clarinetist that you really want them to go, ba? Is that really what you want there? Okay, because, I think you actually do. Da, da, but, actually, da, to match, this kind of thing down here, right? Or this, actually, I should be saying, So, yeah, I still have some strong questions about how you want the breathing and the slurring on this. Now here, flutes, this is not as strong as you think. Putting, them autu, it's still going to be, it will help to thicken the second violins a little bit. But look, if everybody was playing P, right? You don't need to be mezzo piano here. Piano crescendo, right? P crescendo, right? Or maybe put mezzo piano here because you're just trying to do something here. But just leave this P. Leave this P. It's fine. P crescendo. You don't have to be mezzo piano. Mezzo piano is a nothing. Do you know what I mean? Just trust yourself. Piano is cool. Okay, and this is nice. I really like this rise here. Oboe D instead of D flat, going up to the F sharp, and then going up to mezzo forte. It just really is nice. Yeah, I really thought that was nicely done. And this, with the pizzicato here, matched with the timpani, is almost too much. The timpani really is almost a little too much. I would say mark it pianissimo, not P. And just get out of the fiddly town, right? Have everything be the same dynamic, and only underplay something if it's really going to stick out of the texture. Right, and it's good. And then good place for the English horn to come in. You could just mark this as a dotted half note, or sorry, dotted quarter note. I meant to say, yeah. And this accent, not so sure about that. But yeah, just I mean, there's just so much mezzo forte and mezzo piano in these scores. Please, please commit to one side or the other, right? Forte or piano, and try to try to use more inflections to express things. Anyways, but I mean, generally, it's nicely scored. It just needs a few tweaks or untweaks a little bit, and using more inflections. Do you know what I mean? Right. Instead of putting the crescendo here, just put the crescendo here, and you don't need to put the mezzo piano in there. Anyway, but yeah, nicely. This is really cool. The oboe trading off with the flutes or flute. Doesn't say how many here. Is that A2? Right? Here, it would appear to be the first flute. I mean, it's strong enough. Just one single flute is strong enough there. Okay, and then, going back and forth between oboe and then this coming in here. Oh, that just was really, really nice with the English horn there. Just really enjoyed that. It's sort of messing with my head a little bit here because you have scored everything in C, so I keep looking at the English horn and saying, wow, that's some really low scoring, and then realizing that is actually concert A. Yeah, but I mean, that works really nicely. English horn and cellos. Nice match. And then, of course, this only lasted up till here, right? So look, I would say if you wanted to continue with this, I can take another look with it at your score on Facebook, all right? And I'm really trying to avoid spending more time, like kind of revisiting scores, because I feel like I've said what I'm going to say, and it's just up to the player to take it forward and other people to comment. Sorry, player. I mean composer. But in this case, I will take another look at it if you want. But I just feel, try to trust that P is a nice big place, and you can just control what you need to do through inflections, and you don't need to finesse so much. It will balance if the players who are playing the featured lines know what they're doing. All right, so like that. Watch out for putting too much timpani in too early. And one last thing is I didn't feel that this quite worked. This, I mean, you don't have to accept that, but yeah, just in terms of like you've got pizzicato, you've got emphases, you've got these other things, and then to carry from one section to the other, you have this ba, right? And I don't feel that is a strong enough way of bridging between the two sections in terms of like having emphasis. I mean, this would be great as staccato, maybe on bassoon, or I mean, you could do it staccato on horn, but it doesn't have the same kind of feel as if you just were to do pizzicato or have other ways of connecting things with other parts. It almost feels like the horn was stuck in here because you couldn't think of another instrument that was free to do it. All right, so. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but look, you got the second bassoon. You could could cover this with a lot more security and a lot more convincing. You could have second bassoon and double basses carrying this forward into the other part. Anyway, just a thought. So yeah, really nice effort. Really enjoyed looking at it. Enjoyed looking at all of these scores. Really, just really having a blast here, giving you guys feedback and looking at all the ingenious ways that you have thought to put this together. And what's great is like not a single person is really imitating any other person, or really sounds a whole lot like another score. And you guys largely do not sound like my score. So that makes me feel really good. All right, that we're all coming up with more original ideas. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks so much, Zach. And and I will just look to see more on Facebook.